Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I'd love for us to acknowledge ourselves for showing up on such a beautiful day. That would be like the first thing to do, because I know the temptation to shoot hooky would be really stuck sharp today. And it is my pleasure I'm Earl Purdy. I want to welcome everybody that's on Facebook Live. It's really fascinating to be in contact with people from everywhere, from South Africa to Sweden to all over the world, that's checking out what I was doing a session the other day with a young lady in Sweden, and I said, well, we know that telepathy is real because you think you understand what a black guy from the South is saying. It's like, I know that people in here in the States have a hard time understanding me sometimes. So I know the fact that she was able to understand me was awesome. It was awesome. So I'm Earl Purdy. I'm doing the Course in Miracles. And I'm going to start out by inviting all of you to take a deep breath and then ask yourself the question that the Course in Miracles says we should always ask ourselves first of all, which is, what is my purpose? What is this for? What do I want to come out of this? What is my purpose? What is it for? Because it's not an accident that you're here. And I'm going to do the guidelines for the course. If you want to get it, one of the main things to remember is that you don't have to believe the ideas. You don't have to accept the ideas. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. I say some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe, and some of them may seem to be quite startling. Some of the ideas may seem to be quite startling. You are not asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. You are not asked to analyze the ideas at all. The use will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. It says if you use it, it will show you that the ideas are true. If you use them, it will show you that the ideas are true. So Spirit, show us that the ideas are true. Loving Spirit, show us that the ideas are true. 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 Today we're going to be on the judgment of the Holy Spirit, which is the judgment of the loving right mind, the judgment of a loving mind, the judgment of a sane mind. That would be interesting to see how a sane mind looks at things, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Hello. Am I alone? Well, the truth is we are alone because it's just one of us. Think about that. So we're going to talk about love's judgment. How you're going to judge things and how you're going to look at things when your mind is sane, when you let go of anger, guilt, and grievances and the past. So don't be too hard on yourself when you see that maybe you're not doing it exactly like it's saying the same mind might handle it, right? And also remember that my purpose as a divine repetition teacher, that's what's behind my name, Earl Purdy, DRT, is the divine repetition teacher. So my goal is to, as best I can, say the course in as many ways as possible for a person to at least hear what it's saying. Not necessarily agree with it, not necessarily understand it, but first of all, let me just hear what it's saying. And then each person can judge it and accept it or reject it at whatever level that they want to do it at. Because what I find with the Course in Miracles is that most people haven't heard it. So just letting ourselves hear would be a major accomplishment, right? So there's some loaner copies up here in case anyone wants to attempt to follow along. And the Course is also talking about love or fear. It's only talking about two. He says we have two states of mind, a loving state of mind, a fearful state of mind. We call the loving state of mind when we're happy, joyful, prosperous, abundant, full of peace. He says those are forms of expressions of love, and fear is anger, guilt, grievances, separation, lack, attack. And so basically it says there are only two types of perceptions going on, a loving perception and a fearful perception. So even though the Course uses Christian terminology, it's talking about universal spiritual themes. So don't let the terminology throw you. And so what I try to do is, we saw the Holy Spirit's curriculum is actually talking about the sane mind's curriculum, the loving mind's curriculum. And it says the judgment of the Holy Spirit would be what? The judgment of the loving mind, the judgment of my divine self. The Course describes the Holy Spirit as the part of us that's in touch with our higher power and our greater identity, but also is aware that we think we're separate bodies in the world trying to take care and pay MasterCard. Okay, so it's like letting us know there's a part of us that thinks we're separate, and that's the part that has Social Security numbers, right? So the part of you that's looking at me is not you. It's probably the program, you know, the self-concepts we have, the learnings that we have about ourselves. That's what usually we think we are. The Course calls the ego our self-concept. So I'm going to go through the paragraph, and then I'm going to go back through it, seeing what is the point that Spirit is trying to give us in this. Okay? Okay?
Okay. Yes.
We're here to join and extend in love, right? We're on page 215.
Okay.
You have been told not to make error real, and the way to do this is very simple. If you want to believe in error, you would have to make the error real, because the error is not true. I say the error is not true. But truth is real in its own right. Truth is real in its own right. And to believe in truth, you do not have to do anything. To believe in truth, you do not have to do anything. To believe in truth, you do not have to do anything. Understand that you do not respond to anything directly, but to your interpretation of it. Your interpretation thus becomes the justification for the response. That is why analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. I say analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. So what does that mean? Listen carefully. If you decide that someone is really trying to attack you or desert you or enslave you, you will respond as if he had actually done so. If you decide that someone is really trying to attack you or desert you or enslave you, you will respond as if he had actually done so, having made the error real to you. To interpret error is to give error power. To interpret error is to give error power. And having done this, done what? Interpreted error, you will overlook the truth. Mm. 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 So how do you not make error real? It says, well, the way you not make error real is very simple. Say, if you want to believe in a mistake, if you want to believe in error, if you want to believe in the ego, if you want to believe in fear, you have to make it real. And the Course says you have to make it real because fear, the error, the separation isn't true. So what does that mean? It means truth is real in its own right. So since truth is real in its own right, the Course says to believe in the truth, you don't have to do anything. To believe in gravity, I don't have to do anything because it's going to prove it's there. So gravity doesn't have anything to do with my belief in it at this level of consciousness. Whether I believe it or not, I won't jump off this church and fall up. So the truth is true in its own right. So it doesn't really call for you having to do anything. That's the way it is. But what's so cool about the Course is that it's saying that you are loved, you are beautiful, you are priceless, you are treasure, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to be loved no matter what. You are always loved no matter what. You're always valuable no matter what. That who and what you are is not affected at all by your opinion of yourself or your judgment of yourself or anybody else's judgment of you. So the truth is real in its own right, and the only thing that's true is love, and anything other than that is not true. It's a misperception, it's a projection. So then it tells us that the first thing you need to understand, and I love this section because I love how I can show you a lot of what it's talking about from the very beginning. It says, understand what? That you don't respond to anything directly, but you just respond to your interpretation of it. So you're not responding to me directly right now. None of you are responding to me directly right now because the Course says if you were really seeing me, then and we were really seeing each other, we would scarcely be able to refrain from falling to our knees with tears in our eyes because of the beauty of what we would be seeing and listening to. And since I don't see anybody on the floor, I can pretty much gather we haven't reached that level of consciousness yet, right? So the Course in Miracles is saying, you're now not seeing me, you're responding to your interpretation of me, and everybody in here has an interpretation of me right now, and they're all responding to that interpretation of me, and they're also responding to their interpretation of what they heard me say. So there's what's happening, your interpretation of it, and then me. And that's true about everything. And so the Course is saying, well, how can I tell whether or not my interpretation is true? Well, if my interpretation is true, I would feel peace, I would feel love, I would feel joy, I would feel safety. I would feel pure happiness. That's how I would know. And so the Course says we're all responding to what? Our interpretation of what we're seeing. So it's our interpretation that's determining how we're feeling about whatever is happening in our life right now, and not the event or the circumstance that's just happened. So whatever events that are happening in your life right now, whatever's going on in your life right now, I don't care what that is, you're responding to your interpretation of it. And the event itself is neutral. And the way you know the event is neutral is that we don't all have the same reaction to it. That's how you know it's new. The only thing that's happening, they're just events happening. And then each and every one of us are interpreting that event, and then we're responding to the interpretation that we're having. Everybody with me on that?
Yes.
Okay, so the Course then says that's why analyzing the motives of other people is hazardous to you. Why is analyzing somebody else's motive hazardous to you? The Course says, because if you decide that somebody's trying to do something to you, you're going to react as if they've actually done it. And then that's making the error real. What's the error? Thinking that everything is the way I'm interpreting it to be, and thinking that everything is anything other than love. So the Course is telling us that if you've decided that I am, maybe I come in and I don't speak to you, and you interpreted that I'm acting funny with you. But maybe I had something really negative that I thought was negative happen to me before I walked in, and I'm preoccupied with it. But you're going to respond to me as if I am treating you weirdly. See, you're not responding to me. You're responding to your interpretation of me, and that's why I don't even know how any of us get along. I don't understand how any of us understand it. Talking about the Tower of Babel, I do not understand how any of us relate to each other as good as we do when you think that each one of us have our own individual perceptions based on our own individual past experiences that are not usually based on having a ton of love and peace and joy and support when we grew up. Right? So everything that I've gone through is determining how I'm seeing everything. And then I'm like, if I grew up in the black experience or the black body, then my learnings in the past would give me a different perception of everybody in here than maybe you would have. Same thing, right? So I'm reacting to my past learning, and that's what the ego is. It's just our past learning that we've accepted as true and accepted as us, and then we respond to it, and then we treat everybody as if they've done what we have interpreted them as doing. And so the Course in Miracles says, the minute you interpret error or interpret fear or interpret, you're going to give your interpretation power. So as soon as I judge, I'm going to give my judgment power. As soon as I do it. Because I'm trying to convince myself I know what's going on. That's why adults judge in the first place. Because it's our way of thinking that we know what's going on. And then that judgment is based on our interpretations and our meanings. What could be more unfair and inaccurate than that when you think about it? So I love how the Course in Miracles cuts right through all of that by saying, don't try to figure all this out. If you're seeing anything other than love and you're experiencing anything other than peace in your perception, then you are misinterpreting and you're using an interpretation that is not true. That the most honest thing that a person can say that's not enlightened is this: I don't know. That's the one honest thing that we could all really say if we really wanted to be honest. Is I don't know. And then the Course says all we have to do is recognize that all that we know may not be all there is to know. So most people make an interpretation and then try to fit everything into that interpretation because they'd rather be right than to be happy. And the conscious being is going, I don't want to be right, I'd rather be happy, and I don't know. And if I say I don't know, then I can experience new aspects of any of you because I'm not locking you into my perception of what I think you are. So if you really want to have fun with somebody, say, I don't know you, and I'd love to see you show up as who you are without my script, without my judgments, and without my past. Then we'd have a new experience of each other. All men are not like this, and all women are not like that. So when you make those kind of gross generalizations, that's a classic example of what the Course is talking about, of giving it your interpretation. The next person you meet is not the last person you met. So you can't use the experience you had with the last person to interpret how the new person is going to treat you, which is what people do in relationships a lot. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do what somebody who's even not you did to me, right? So the Course is saying, if you give your interpretation power, at the end it says you will overlook the truth. Because I'm so into my judgment that I won't overlook the truth, which is I really don't know what you are. The only thing that's real is love. And if I'm experiencing anything other than love and peace, there's something in my perception that needs to be shifted, because the Course is trying to teach me how to give everything new interpretations that will give me peace. Like, for instance, when my mother made her transition, I could either look at it as if she was a body and she's now gone, or I could use the Course in Miracles interpretation of she laid her body down and her spirit is still in existence and she's still evolving. Now, you can't prove that she's not that, and I can't prove that she is that, but it certainly gives me a lot more peace to look at her as an eternal being than it does looking at her as something that does not exist anymore, that was just a body. So which interpretation will give me more peace? Obviously the one that says she's more than her body. So if I have more peace, I can hear the voice for God. I can hear the voice for love. I can hear my guidance when I'm in peace. I can't hear my guidance when I'm in conflict, according to the Course. That is why the Course in Miracles is all about giving us a peaceful perception so we can hear our own internal guide. So it's not about putting you in the hands of anybody else. It's really getting the blocks out of the way for you to be able to tune into yourself, your higher self. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So the purpose of the course is the undoing of the blocks, and the block is the way I've been taught to look at things as a being of separation. So that was the first paragraph. Any questions or comments about that paragraph?
I just wanted to say thank you because my beloved Kitty made his transition yesterday.
I hear you.
He was my baby, and it was really unexpected, and he made it in my arms, and so I've been a Course in Miracles student for a long time, but my heart is still broken. But I heard him a few hours later. I heard him meow, and it was like this really. It was him, but it was like almost like clear as a bell. So I knew he was on the other side trying to say, "I'm okay, Mommy," but it was still. It just. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably mourning you because you're still here.
That's right.
Yeah, probably.
This is not our home. This is Earth School. This is a dream. It's not our home. And if you really take the time to go deep inside in meditation and prayer and just really go back to go in, you know it's not. And some of us come here knowing it's not. And if you look at it like you're off at school and what you see as death is going home, it would change a lot of the way we would handle what's going on right now. You know, love is eternal. And what's love never ends, it just expands. And there's nothing about the Course in Miracles that says that it's not okay for you to grieve or to feel all your feelings. Actually, it's saying just the opposite. That if you're practicing this correctly, you'll feel innocent about all of your feelings and not feel like you have to repress them to be spiritual.
Right, exactly.
You know, being spiritual is showing up authentically in the moment as who you are, however that is, and feeling innocent about all your feelings. So by all means, don't repress what you're feeling. Anybody else before I go to the next paragraph? Okay. All right. Now it says the analysis of ego motivation is very complicated and very obscure and never without your own ego involvement. So you are analyzing somebody else's motivation is very complicated. I love it. Very obscure, and it takes your ego to analyze my ego. So you can't see my ego except through your ego. So any quality that you see in me that you think is less than loving, you're looking at it through that part of your own mind that's the same way. It's what the Course in Miracles is telling us. So sorry we don't get a chance to feel better than anybody else because we think they have some quality that we don't have, but we see it. So if you see selfishness in me, you can only see it through the part of your mind that's aware of what selfishness is and that is selfish. If you see love in me, it's also because you're tuning into the part of your mind that can see love. Only the ego can see the ego. Spirit never sees the ego. A totally loving mind only sees love. It doesn't see fear and anger and guilt and grievances, according to the Course that we don't have to believe. All right, you with me on that? And then it says the whole process represents a clear-cut attempt to demonstrate your own ability to understand what you perceive. I love that. So I am analyzing all of you because I'm trying to demonstrate to myself that I have the ability to understand what I see. So you want to believe you understand what you see. So the Course says the way that you pull that off is you judge and interpret everything around you to convince yourself that you know what's going on. It's called being an adult. So, and then it goes on to say, this is shown by the fact that you react to your interpretations as if they were correct. Right? So I made the interpretation, I'm interpreting you all, and I'm reacting to you all as if my interpretation of you is correct because I'm trying to demonstrate to myself that I know what the hell is going on, even when I don't. Because it's much too frightening for us to be honest enough to recognize we don't have the slightest idea of what's really going on, and we don't know what's going to happen to us 2 hours from now, 3 hours from now, at all. Don't really know where we came from, and don't really know where we're going, and don't even know who we are. That's too frightening to the average person. So the way they try to fill that gap up is to interpret everything around them and judge everything around them to convince themselves that they know what's going on because it's too frightening to admit that we don't really know anything for sure. So you may then control your reactions behaviorally, the course says, but not emotionally. So I interpret that you don't like me. I might behave like I don't think that you feel that way. So I'll control the way I behave, but I certainly am not controlling the way I feel. So I'll act differently than the way I'm feeling on the inside. Have you ever done that? Okay. Everybody except the problem. Okay. So what does the course call that? Controlling your behavior, but not your emotions. Well, he says, well, that would obviously be a split or an attack on the integrity of your mind. Well, that sounds pretty intense. So all day long, I am attacking the integrity of my mind. I'm pitting one level of myself against another level of myself because I'm acting opposite to the way that I feel many times during the day. So the course says that is pitting one level of your mind against another level of your mind and attacking the integrity or the oneness of your mind. And it says pitting one level of your mind against another level of your mind. So why is it that we interpret and we judge according to the course? We are trying to do what? Convince ourselves that we know exactly what's going on. It's why we do it. Because people go, why is it so hard to give up judgment? Well, giving up judgment is also at another level me giving up the idea that I know exactly what's going on. And I'd rather pretend I know exactly what's going on than give up judgment. And then I'm going to respond to everybody as if that judgment is true. And then if I decide something that you're doing is somehow or another negative, then I might control my behavior, but I'm not really controlling my feelings. I was out doing research at a nightclub last night. I was doing my field work, and I went to get a drink, and this couple just responded to me with just so much light, because I thought I had to go past them to get up to the bar to order my drink, and they said, no. And it was deep because they were kind of dressed like the way you expect people to be dressed who like part of a motorcycle gang almost. I mean, the whole thing. And then they just, and the guy was raising his hand when I was trying to go by, when I went by, and he said, no, I want to order you a drink because I want to acknowledge who you are.
Whoa. And
so he paid for the drink. And so he was seeing me correctly. His interpretation of me was correct because it made him want to do something that he perceived as being peaceful and loving. I had interpreted him as maybe not a person who was going to be that friendly. Then I was reacting to that interpretation because I really didn't want to push him out of the way too fast. So it was like, and so I did exactly the process that the Course in Miracles was saying, but the reality of it was I was totally wrong in my interpretation in the way that I was responding, and I found out I was wrong about the interpretation. How many times have you been wrong and never realized it? How many interpretations do you possibly have right now about people that's absolutely incorrect, but you don't even know it? You still think you're correct about the way you've seen them. And so you go, well, how do I know if I'm still seeing them incorrectly? Well, I want to run them down with my car. That may be a little tip that maybe you still are not looking at them with the eyes of love. You know, that's just an easy way to tell that you might be a little bit off. Is your feelings. Your feelings are the right use of judgment. Your feelings will get you in touch with what you believe. That's what's so cool about feelings. It doesn't mean your feelings are necessarily based on anything true, but they are getting you in touch with your beliefs, whether they're true or not. So if you're a person that's in negative emotional states or what you perceive as negative emotional states all day, practically all day, your perception of everything is wrong most of the time. That would be the great way to say it. It would be to say, I hope I'm wrong, and I want another way to look at this. I don't want to be right when I'm miserable about anything or anybody. I hope I'm wrong.
I agree.
I hope I'm wrong. So the Course is telling us then that that's pitting one level of yourself against another level of yourself, when you're incongruent between how you're interpreting things and how you're behaving. And if you're angry and upset, and it took me a while to get this one, to really recognize you're the one that's probably way, way off, and the best thing you can do is just shut your mouth and breathe. And pause for inspiration, because sometimes just taking a moment to take a breath can keep you from opening your mouth and saying something that's not really loving and supportive. But that's when most people want to talk the most. Yeah, because their anger makes them think they're right, because certainly I wouldn't be upset about nothing. If I'm upset, it's got to be real. It's got to be true. So the next paragraph is the one I want to get to, because it tells you, well, what do you do next? So before I do that, any comments, questions about that?
Yeah, I had kind of a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, about your experience in the bar.
Yeah.
Seems to me like your judgment that he might be looking at you wrongly
Mm-hmm.
was pretty minor, because then he loved you
Mm-hmm.
in a way that you could see it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two parts of you, the two parts of our mind,
Mm-hmm.
your fear part must have been pretty small, because the loving part interpreted him as loving pretty quickly.
Right. It was in my heart and in my mind, all I want is peace everywhere I go with everybody I'm around.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Right.
All right. And so since I'm clear about that allows me to evaluate situations and how I should behave in any situation, because if I have a goal, then I know whether or not I'm moving toward the goal generally and moving away from the goal. That's why it's important to have a goal. If you don't have a goal or a purpose, it's hard to evaluate. If my goal is to come to the church to teach you, and I find myself headed down to the topless dead Civic Center Park, then for more research. It's okay to have a sense of humor and be spiritual. It's all right. It's okay. All right. Funny. Okay. Then that would have been a wrong choice, because in terms of my goal, I would have been headed in the opposite direction. So if you don't have a goal, you are a person that it looks like things just happen to you for no reason at all, inexplicably, and you don't know why. That's usually the case with people who always look like there's something always happening and they're shocked. They're just showing up without having any purpose in the moment.
Right.
So even if that person had not responded in a loving way, this section told me how I was supposed to see it, even if they didn't respond that way, right? Because if I was seeing them any other way other than the way I'm about to be told to look at it, then my perception is incorrect. So, and that takes us to the next section. It says, there's but one interpretation of motivation that makes any sense. There's just one interpretation of anybody's motivation that makes any sense according to the course that we don't have to believe. Which is, because it's the Holy Spirit, the divine self, the higher self, loves interpretation, and because it loves judgment, so judgment is interpretation, is perception, they're all the same thing from a course perspective. So it says, and because it is the Holy Spirit's judgment, the higher power's judgment, it requires no effort at all on your part. So if I'm going to give you an interpretation that works for you, then you're coming up with an interpretation that requires no effort at all on your part. That's what it means when it says requires no effort at all on your part. If I'm giving you the right way to look at it, you coming up with the right way of looking at it requires no effort on your part. Yeah. Okay? And like when the Course says stuff like, let you recognize that the problem has already been solved. You have a problem, and there's a workbook lesson that says, let me recognize the problem has been solved. And people go, well, I'm having a lack of peace around my financial problem. What do you mean, let me recognize it's already been solved? It looks like I still have the problem. No, what that means is the solution to your problem is available, so therefore the problem has already been solved. You have to use it. So there's not a problem you have that there's not a solution to. So it's already been solved. If you understand the only problem is a sense of separation from love, God, and peace. That's the only problem, is I'm separate from my peace. And so there are laws or rules of peace of mind. There are rules of behavior and perception to have peace of mind. Like, in other words, if I'm going to be a peaceful person, I don't walk around attacking people all day. That's a rule of peace, is that you can't be a hellraiser attacking people all the time and have peace. right? So there is a rule to have peace. So if you're in conflict, you're breaking the rules of peace in your own perception. So peace is available to you. You are not obeying the rules of peace to have peace of mind. Now remember, the Course is talking about your perception, the way you see things, because what? We want to have a peaceful perception so we can hear our own inner guidance. Not my guidance, your guidance from within you. It's talking to you all the time. It's available to you all the time. The Course says we're too busy listening to our own voice, what we are making up as we go along. Because the Course says that we wake up every morning with one real desire, to make everything serve us.
That's right.
And if we be honest, that's exactly what we do. We call it our dreams. We call it our goals. We call it our treasure map. We call it our, that's what we do. We get up and we decide what's going to make us happy, and then we want everything to serve that purpose. We want everybody to cooperate with it, act out the script that we made up for them, and the Course just calls it what it is. You all just want everything and everybody to serve you.
Sure.
And you get angry when they don't.
Sure.
That's what's called you don't support me. It goes by the term you don't support, which basically means you're not doing what I want you to do the way I want you to do it in order to make me happy. And you're selfish if you don't. I'm not selfish because I'm trying to make you my slave, but because I'm mad at you because you're not doing it exactly like I want you to do it, because I've assigned a role to you that you're supposed to play, right, with my script. And in most cases, I didn't even ask you if you wanted to play the role. So, I mean, the Course doesn't really take any prisoners. And I understand why people have such resistance to reading it, because it just calls us on our stuff. It calls us on our stuff. You're not nice.
What?
No, you're little selfish little beings, little selfish God children who want everything the way we want it, how we want it, with everybody the way we want it. And we are loved anyway.
Right.
Right? And now we're learning that that's not cool and we need to do it differently. And so anybody who doesn't buy into your game is perceived as being selfish. But as you wake up in consciousness, you're going to find that a conscious being will never play your game. And you'll be mad most of the time. So you need to always get in a relationship with somebody just as unconscious as you are. Have equality. Because the more loving the person is, the less your games will be played. What game? The game of, if you all were different, I'd be happy. If you spoke or acted differently, I'd be happy. If you changed, then I'd be happy. So all my attention is based on using my mind to come up with ways that you need to change in order for me to have what I want. That is the perception that will never bring you joy and never bring you happiness, because it's saying you can never be satisfied and feel whole in the moment, because you're never accepting the moment as satisfying, because there's a part of the mind saying, if it was a little bit hotter in here, it was a little bit cooler in here, it was a little bit more fun. Or, you know what I'm saying? There's a part of us that no matter what's happening is saying, if this were different, I'd be saved. If this were different, I'd be happy. If you spoke or acted different, I'd be happy. If I wasn't in Denver, I'd be happy. See, that part, the Course says, that is the ego. It's the part of your mind that's always telling you something has to be different before you can have peace. It's the part of your mind that never allows you to appreciate anything and be satisfied with it. As a matter of fact, we're taught in our culture that if you are satisfied and you're just enjoying your life as it is manifested and expressed, then you are not ambitious and something's wrong with you. That's how we do it. Or people just, that's why so many unhappy people.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we never can go, oh, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
And then out of my satisfaction, I'll go do whatever I'm going to do in the world. But since I'm satisfied, then I can't fail. Right? I'm satisfied. You saw me move in here. If it looked like it was going to be 6 people today, then I was going to be satisfied with that, because, first of all, that's who the Holy Spirit sent. And I believe anybody that comes into my life, they're sent now. And there's a lesson we can learn. There's a lesson we can learn right now. And it says nobody's missing from this moment who's supposed to be here and needs to be here, and everybody that's here is everybody that offers some salvation and healing to me right now. So the people in this room are the most important people in my life now. Everything that I could experience for my healing, you are the ones that could be the channel for it. Obviously not the people who are not here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, that's why it's so strange. The Course says we've learned insane lessons. We're not insane, we just learned a lot of insane things. And he says you should know it's insane because there's no lasting joy. That should be your hint that you don't feel fulfilled. It's so simple. It says, his Course says, I'm not hard, I'm just very different. Nothing about this is hard. It's just different. And so it says right here, there's but one interpretation of motivation that makes any sense, and because it's love's judgment, it requires no effort at all on your part, which is what? Every loving thought is true. Everything else is an appeal for healing and for what? Help. So all I see all day, only thing that's happening around the globe, the only thing that's happening at every level of your life and everybody else's is either there's love happening in this moment or there's a call for love in this moment. That's the only thing that's happening. So I don't have to interpret your motivation because I know that you only have two states of mind. I know that you're either experiencing love or you're calling for love.
Right.
That's it. No matter what words you're using. You could be cursing me out. The guy at the bar, he could have cursed me out. But if I was right-minded, I would go, my God, that guy had a big call for love. My goodness, that guy had a big call for God. Wow.
Right.
So I wouldn't have to process with him. I wouldn't have to analyze with him because I know what it is. He's afraid. And so he's calling for love. He's calling for help. Doesn't even mean that I'm the one that necessarily should do anything about that. I'm to recognize it's a call for love, then ask for guidance about what to do in that moment. And in most moments, you'll be told to do nothing. Because you'll find that things go better in your life when you're not involved.
That's really.
You find that some of the best things that happened to you were things you did not expect, that it looked like you had nothing to do with it occurring.
Right.
Oprah wanted to be what you call it, an anchor, a news anchor. That's what she wanted to be when she went to the TV station. And they didn't think she looked the part. They didn't like the way she physically looked. So they wanted her to take over this talk show slot, which she did not want to do. But her friend Gail encouraged her and believed in. That's why she's such a Gail fan, because she knew Gail cared about her before she became Oprah. That's why you hang on to those friends like that, because you know their motivation is right, right? So that was how she ended up being a talk show host. It wasn't no point that she sit down and visualize being who she is today. And so there's a divine plan for your life also. So the Course in Miracles is saying to us, now this is the cool part. It says, can anyone be justified in responding with anger to a brother's plea for help? So let's say the person went off at the bar, okay? Then if I got angry at him, then I am having an unjustified response, because what he's really doing is calling for help and calling for love, and then I'm getting mad about it. And so the Course says, no response can be appropriate except the willingness to give the help to the person, for the help and only the help, only the love is what they're asking for. So that could have been something as simple as me not attacking him back. Just doing that would have been answering his call for love. Me giving him a demonstration of another way he could be expressing himself could have been me answering his call for love by not meeting his attack with an attack. So then the Course in Miracles says, offer them anything else, I love that, other than what? My willingness to see it as love or a call for love. He says, offer him anything. Now, together, everybody say, yes, but.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay, I'm going to relieve the pressure. Okay. Yes, but.
Yes, but.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay, y'all have nice round yes butts. I want y'all to know that. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to lighten it up. It's all right. It's okay. We have to watch this spiritual stuff, man. People want to get serious really, really quick. And it says, so offer them anything else and you're doing what? You're assuming the right to attack that person's reality. What is their reality? I'm calling for love. I'm calling for help, even if I'm going off on you. And how am I assuming the right to attack their reality? He says, by interpreting their reality as you see fit. So I'm attacking the truth of what's going on by me wanting to interpret it as I see fit. He don't like black folk. See, that's me attacking the reality of what's going on by wanting to use my interpretation above what was really happening.
So what did happen?
What happened was that he bought me a drink. What happened was that he said that he wanted to, which was really deep. That was the words that came out. You know, I want to buy this for you because I want to honor what you and who you are. That's what he said. And his wife, that was his wife that was with him. She was also saying, so I just feel your presence. I feel your light. It's really interesting. Last week I went to see P-Funk. I was doing some more research. At the Mission Ballroom. 3 people just came up and hugged me out of the clear blue sky and just, you know, God, wow, you just, I could see, they see something in me that I don't see all the time, even as much as they do. And the Course talks about that if you're around people and they seem like they are having a good time around you, but you're not having a good time with yourself, he said, then there's something in you that's capable of bringing joy that you are not in touch with. So you need to get in touch with whatever they're getting in touch with in terms of how they're feeling they're good about you. You know, right. So, yeah.
So, if you're letting your light shine, so to speak, then other people pick up on that. And
Some people do.
Maybe that's just what happened.
Well, that's
your light came in.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, we're saying the same thing. There was something that he recognized and he saw in me that I didn't see. But what even more important than that was that he saw something in himself. See, that said more about him. See, the fact that he saw that in me meant he sees that in him, but he may not know it. So then I turned around and expressed my gratitude to them and how big of a light and how loving I thought they were. And then we ended up taking a picture together. And I got it in my wallet. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, that's wonderful that happened, but I also have to be on a level of consciousness that I would know how to respond if that had not happened. And I don't want my peace to be based on whether it happens or not. See, my overall goal personally is to be on a level of consciousness that I'm so whole and complete within myself that I don't lose my center regardless of what's going on outside of myself. My goal is not to get people to behave a certain way. My goal is to get me to behave a certain way. Because I have control freak tendencies, so I finally discovered that those tendencies work best on me. Because I can dumb myself really good. And I can be my own submissive. And that's easy. So that's what I love about this. So I didn't have to get rid of my desire to control. I just had to use it in a way that benefited me, and that was on me. You see what I'm saying? Every time you make your goal to see things differently, then you are focusing on a goal that doesn't necessarily require the future for you to be able to be successful at it. And the Course says that. And anything that Spirit is telling you to do will always be something you can do now. It's our ego that's past and future oriented. Because it's only our ego would say, you can't be happy until you have that partner, or you can't be happy until you get that job, and you can't be happy until you have that house. And the minute you tell yourself that, you know that's your ego at some point on your spiritual path. So you know you're getting ready to set yourself up. The minute you say you're not going to be happy unless you have some physical condition that turns out the way you want it to come. But that takes a lot of inner work and spiritual maturity to get to the point that you realize that. That's why it's perfectly okay for you to seek happiness outside yourself as much as you would like, because since there's nothing condemning us or judging us, you can take as much time as you like. You see what I mean? Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you can do it your way as long as you want to, because eternity means there's no Harry. that's what eternity means. You can take as long as you want. But the Course says that you can time can waste you instead of you wasting time. And that's what people do. They use time to waste themselves. So the Course says, now this is really deep. It says, offer that person anything else, and you assuming the right to attack their reality by interpreting it as you see it. Like I've read the Course, at least 150 times or more. The Course says the purpose of a relationship is to save time. So from having taught it almost 40 years, there are things that could come through me that could save a person time that's just now studying it, right? If they would be open to that. But the Course says, Spirit knows who would be open, right? So my point in saying this is the Course is much simpler than you're going to make it when you first start studying it. There's a part of you that's going to try to make it endlessly complex so that you won't act on what you're reading. That's why I read it even though I've studied it this long. That's why you see me using a book, even though obviously I'm familiar with the material, because you may not be able to have me all the time, but you can have the book all the time. And one of the biggest blocks to this is that it's not trying to get you to fix anything about your life. It's really trying to get you to get out of the way by having an interpretation of your experience that does not block the truth. So the Course says over and over again, the Holy Spirit is the healer. The divine is the healer. You aren't the healer. Resign as your own teacher. Your ego is not the one that's going to make you happy. You are not going to come up with the way to do it on your own. So you see. And so I love that. I love that it's telling me that I'm not alone and I'm loved unconditionally, because now when I make a mistake, I don't take out the psychic sledgehammer and beat myself up anymore, because there's nothing that's going to punish me for it. It's just the only afterward message, Purdy, is don't do that again. Just don't do that again. That's it. Because the mind doesn't like making mistakes. We've already been programmed to be right? So nobody likes to make mistakes. But if you feel guilty and you feel sinful, you're going to do it over. The only thing you're guaranteeing when you make somebody feel guilty is they're going to do what they just did again. Because the part of them, the ego part that thrives on punishing ourselves, because that's what we were taught. If you're bad, if you do something wrong, you punish yourself. So we think good people punish themselves. So if you want to be a real good person, you really punish yourself. So it's not, so the way you get past an addiction, it's easier to get past an addiction when you let go of the guilt, which is why you're doing the addiction. You're doing the addiction for the guilt. So once you take the guilt away, you find that so many things you seem like you can't control all of a sudden become child's play, because they're not important anymore. Because that was why I gave it so much juice, because of how it made me feel. So the Course is telling us, I love this, he says, perhaps the danger of this to your own mind is not yet fully apparent. What danger? The danger of assuming the right to say anything that you're doing is anything other than a call for love, a call for help, and a call for healing. See how simple that is? If I come up with anything else other than that's a call for help when you're going off, when you're angry, when you're upset, then I am attacking your reality. Because the reality is you are just a child of God calling for love. No matter what you're doing. Now, if I don't want to let myself off the hook for the things I do that are not loving, then I won't want to let you off the hook for the things you are doing. And that's how you can tell how a person feels about themselves. If I believe I deserve to be punished, then I'm going to be the first one to want to punish everybody else around me for what they're doing. And then I'm shocked that when I don't get compassion and support when I go through stuff. It's so funny. It's like when you watch those movies and the worst villains in the world will be the first one begging for mercy just when it's time for them to get payback. See, they don't realize, my God, that you're in this predicament because of what you've given, right? And people who want to punish themselves, people who don't love themselves, they're really not that much of a problem, because they are repelled by people who are loving. They tend to not even want to be around you when you're really peaceful. And so sometimes it shocks people when they get on a spiritual path and they think they're going to become more popular and have more people around them than ever, and they'll find that for a while it looks like people are dropping out of the experience like flies. Because people who are drama kings and queens are not attracted to people who want peace and harmony. So being aware that as you grow spiritually, you're going to go through a phase that you're going to probably think you are more alone when you're really not. Because you're not the way you used to be, so the people who represent that, you won't have the same appeal to them because you won't be fulfilling the need you used to fulfill for them when you were that way. So they'll either change with you, or they'll replace you with somebody else who will play the role that you used to play, or you might have to choose out of the relationship and just go, hey, that's not me anymore. I'm going to have to choose out of that. You're innocent, but that's not my thing anymore. Woo! Whoa. So if you believe that an appeal for help is something else, you will react to the something else. If I had a thought that he was trying to hurt me, then I would react to that instead of looking at it as a call for love. And he says, what? Your response will therefore be inappropriate to reality. What do you mean? Like, if I'm responding to my interpretation of what I think you did, then I'm not responding correctly to the reality, which is that you're calling for help, you're calling for love, you're calling for peace. But I would be responding correctly according to my perception of it. Like if I thought you were attacking me and I responded back with defense and attack, I would be responding appropriately according to my interpretation of it, but I would not be responding correct in terms of the truth of what the situation is, which is that that person is calling for love. So as I wind this up, this is what I want you to remember. If your outer reality is a reflection of your consciousness, it's a reflection of your thought, which is what we learned in metaphysical truth, and if every time you saw what people were doing as love or call for love or call for help, then you would begin to draw love to you when you were upset and support to you when you were upset, as opposed to attack. Because all day long, this is what you're saying. Love, call for love. Love, call for love. Love, call for love. Love, call for love. Love, call for help. Love, call for help. You know, in this world, you'd be doing it a lot all day, right? Right? Did you realize if you were using this all day, how often you would say, love, call for love, call for love. In the traffic, call for love, my boss, call for love, call for help. So what are you doing? Love, 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 love. The ideas that you repeat, the ideas that you share, the ideas that you think, the ideas that you focus on, those are the ideas that manifest. So you would be using the so-called negativity of the world to reinforce love inside of you and therefore draw it to you.
Hence the guy at the bar.
Hence the guy at the bar. And so your life would become, your perception of love will get stronger and stronger and stronger until you get to the point. I got on the elevator. Same thing happened. Got on the elevator. Young lady got on the elevator with me in a white body. Just add a little more juice to it. Okay. Because I can remember getting off the elevator and women in white bodies would jump back because of the programming. This color skin, I got to jump back. It's frightening, you know. And so, but the truth of it is, again, that was an interpretation of me and then reacted to the interpretation. Right. That's what we do all the time. I'm a totally safe person. But her interpretation was I wasn't, right? But look at the difference in consciousness, because I've been seeing love is called for love, love and a call for love. This young lady got on the elevator and she went and just hugged me till she got to her floor. Never seen her before. And then she just got off the elevator and just walked away.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's been happening a lot lately. And so I'm busy trying to get in touch with this Earl. I want to take him out. I want to meet him. I might have a same-sex marriage right here. I'm already planning my honeymoon. I know I'm going to get lucky. I need to get in touch with this joker, you know, because and so that's what the Course says. The use of the ideas will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. So would you acknowledge yourself here in this much with the Holy Spirit? Woo! Okay, so I'm going to do one little quick recap of what I've said so we can take that out into the with us. And let's do the love offering right now. I want to thank you all for being willing to share. I'm a full-time teacher of the Course, and also Unity Temple thanks you for your donations and sharing with me. Thank you so much. Those of you online, if you'd like to make them a pass, if you'd like to, this is another example of trust. I've been doing the Course in Miracles full time for over 30 years. Trusting that I would be provided for through the Holy Spirit. And the Course told me what attitudes to take about doing what I do. And I practiced what it was saying, and I've received everything that the Course said. If you fulfill your function, you will be given what you need to stay. Some people will be sent to give you the money that you need to stay. Some people will be there to teach you how much you need forgiveness. Some days it's mostly forgiving people. Okay. A lot of forgiveness sometimes. I need a lot of forgiveness. But I've never done without. Because I wanted to do what I wanted. I left an incredibly prosperous corporate job to do the Course in Miracles full time, and then I was an astrologer and a numerologist. And so I put the book I gave it a test from the very beginning, because it was my calling. And when you are exposed to your calling, you must do it. It's not a job, it's not a career. A calling is something totally different. And everyone has a calling, and everyone has a special function. And if you're not satisfied with what you're doing, it's because you're not fulfilling your function. You're doing something that the culture and society told you that you needed to be doing, but you're not really being true to your heart and to your true inner guidance. And so some people, they can't do that. They have to do what fulfills them. But no matter what you're doing, you'll get the lessons that you need to learn. So you don't have to put yourself down if you're not. But I'm so thankful that I gave myself enough teachings from the Course to go ahead and make that move and do that. Now, it brought my own stuff up, and so I've had to learn a lot of lessons in forgiveness, and you name it, I've had to learn it. But I feel so blessed right now, I'm overwhelmed. I'm so blessed. I was thinking about my relationship with my children right now. We had almost a 30-year estrangement that we loved each other, but we were in two different thought worlds altogether because they were fundamentalist born-again Christians. And they thought I was teaching people the wrong way, and it created quite a rift for many years. But I kept on focusing in on the truth. And I'm going to visit. I'm just going to give and receive love. That's it. And they don't have to change for me to be happy. And even when anything will come up that would even make me feel any kind of grievance or fear, then the voice would say, "You're just here to give and receive love. That's it." And all of a sudden, without me doing or saying anything to them, they went through a major, major transformation in their own consciousness, from their own individual seeking of the truth, and ended up deeply in everything that I'm involved with now, wanting my advice on all of it. And we meet, I have a standing date with both my son and my daughter every week. And sometimes my daughter and I went from talking for 5 minutes to 2 or 3 hours and can't get off the phone. And we do it every week, talking about the things that matter to me, and with total acceptance and unconditional love. What I appreciate the most about that is that it didn't happen as a result of any conversation I had with them, because that could have further convinced me that it was up to me to fix it. What I did was start applying the Course to myself and then watched the change happen, because I had already won, because I had already made the decision that I was going to love them if they never changed. So still my love wasn't dependent on if they get into what I'm into. It was really based on I'm going to love them, accept them for who they are without them having to change in any way. And then when that was real in me, that's when the miracle happened. So I tell people all the time, getting on this path doesn't mean you're going to get everything the way you want it. It means you're going to have what's best for you, which can be two different things. Just because you want something doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing for you. You know that, but we still act like that's so, don't we? Just because I want it, it must be the best thing for me to have. And my favorite lesson in the Course is I do not perceive my own best interest. I don't know what's for my own best interest. So since I put the Holy Spirit in charge of my life, I still ask for what I want, But if it doesn't happen, I go, okay, that wasn't what was best for me. It didn't mean God didn't answer. Maybe God did answer, and God's answer was no. See, maybe it was no. Because we act like just because I asked Spirit, if it doesn't happen, then somehow Spirit didn't come through. No, actually Spirit came through. That would have been the worst person you could have ever went on with. Or that could have been the job that made you the most miserable person in the world, that you thought would have been the best one. So don't think because things don't turn out the way you want them to turn out, that by any means you lost. Because there is no loss in spirit, right? So those of you online, if you'd like to support my teaching ministry, just go to earlpurdy.com, P-U-R-D-Y. And my email is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. It's really tough to remember. And also, I'm available for one-on-one sessions that I call clarity sessions, that I work with you and show you how to apply this to situations and circumstances that you have in your life that you know you're ready to have a different experience of. And if you're open-minded to it, I'd also use my 40 years of being a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist too. So if you go to my website, it explains it in detail, and you can self-book an appointment right there online. It's available. You don't have an original problem. You're not that special. Even though the ego will tell you, you don't know what you're talking. You don't know what I'm going through. Yes, I do. You're going through a reaction to an interpretation that you made that is not true. How do I know? Because you want to kill yourself. There might be a hint that you maybe it's a little off, right? Right, that's what this book says anyway. So we got 3 Facebook Lives a week that I do. Sunday, 1 o'clock. We got a lot of people. We usually have something like, 15 to 20,000 people a month that watch.
Wow.
I've had over 1 million views. And it's like, again, that's not me. Thank you for saying it. It's okay to acknowledge yourself. I am you. Hello. I am you. You're acknowledging of me, you're acknowledging of you. All right, thank you. Because I didn't do it.
Yeah, but you're showing.
I didn't do it. Yeah, I show up. Exactly. It's not hard for me to show up to do what I want to do. It was hard for me when I was doing stuff every day that I didn't want to do. That's when my life was hard. This isn't hard. I love this. Nobody has to make me. I don't get up in the morning and go, damn, I got to do that course class. Damn. You know what I'm saying? Alexa, shut up. Just woke me up. So it's not, this is my joy. This is my joy, to be a conduit, to try to get my stuff out of the way so I can be a better conduit. That's my joy. So that's what I meant earlier when I said I'm overwhelmed at the ordinariness of my life. Because the Course says love should be ordinary. It shouldn't be special that somebody was kind to you. It shouldn't be special that someone appreciates you. That shows you how far off we are. Is that we think that's special if someone does that. So, I want you to remember that you are only seeing love or call for love. Say it is love or a call for love. Everything anyone does is love or a call for love. Stop interpreting everyone's motivation and then responding to your interpretation as if it is true. You hear me? You hear me?
Yes.
Stop pitting one level of yourself against another level of yourself. As much as you can, be consistent. What I think, what I feel, and how I behave are all in alignment. The Course says honesty is consistency. If you are consistent, that is the Course's definition of honesty. So remember that. What does that mean? I'm not incongruent. What I think is what I feel is how I act. And the Course says, if you are not in conflict within yourself, you wouldn't be in conflict with anything outside of yourself. So that means your reality is a three-dimensional mirror of what's going on within your consciousness. I'll say it again. Your present reality is a three-dimensional mirror of what's going on inside your consciousness. If you want to get out of any situation that's not giving you peace right now, you want to start using the Holy Spirit's judgment. You want to use the judgment of love. And the judgment of love is this. It is what? It is love or a call for love. What is it? It is love or a call for love. What they're doing at work, it's a love or a call for love. What's happening in your relationship? Love or a call for love. What's happening in your bank account? Love or a call for love. What's happening in your body? Love or a call for love. What's happening with our government? Love or a call for love. That's the only thing that's happening. And if you see it as love or call for love, you are turning it into a prayer. And you will call it to yourself. You will be calling love to yourself. And that's all you deserve. Hugs are available. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. You are surrounded by all the people in this lifetime that you were supposed to forgive right now. They're in the room with you. Yeah. This is not our first time together. So I appreciate you. You're a blessing in my life. And I want to be a blessing in yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Earl.
Those of you online, don't forget you juicy and cute.
Sorry.